Welcome to Relationship Run Back, where you got to run that back. And I want to talk about the name for a second. It comes from, I've been getting a lot of questions about this. It comes from my belief in God and that his arms are open wide, waiting for you to come back. We all make mistakes. We all go through things. He is right there, ready to, with his arms wide open. And also, I like competitive sports. So when you play a game or a board game, baseball, basketball, and you lose, there's a lot of lessons in that. And what do we say when you let's run that back? Because now you know what to do next time. So again, thank you for tuning into the show, Relationship Run Back. Let's run it back. My guest today is my cousin, Charlene Garcia.
Hello.
I brought her in today because we have similar backgrounds. We grew up in the same area, down the street here actually, in East Los Angeles. And I want to talk today about generational trauma, role models, and how that's affected us in our relationships. And to kick it off, I wanna talk about what I've been through recently. And Charlene was one of the persons that were really there for me and stepped up in multiple ways. And she seen me when I was man at my lowest, lost, just nowhere to turn, hopeless, really. I actually moved in with her for a couple months. Um, so I back in 2020, I was separated from my wife. We got separated, and all that generational trauma, all those bad role models that we had growing up, the examples, it all came to a head. And I was married for 24 years, and at that, it came to a point where my wife said, "Enough's enough," and um, I was behaving in a way where I saw my role models behave. They were displaying behavior. I mean, we grew up with drug addicts, we grew up with alcoholics, we grew up with emotional abuse, physical abuse, and at the time we didn't know, that there was something else. We thought that was just normal. You wake up, you go to school, you come home, there may be a fight or something's going on, or um, and you just let's eat dinner now. Let's just go back to our normal life. What was it for you in that household growing up, um, and how that what you learned from that carry into your relationships?
Well, like you said, it wasn't only the fighting, the drugs, obviously we were around gangs and all,
Hmm.
but our uncles were players,
Yeah,
and they were very handsome men, and they made it seem cool. They made
yeah,
it seem cool to cheat on their wives, to have
yeah,
multiple partners, and I remember them coming home and talking about the kind of women they were with, and
yeah,
don't get with the woman that was makeup, and because you're gonna
yeah,
wake up in the next morning and and so I thought, oh, I don't want to wear makeup when I
yeah,
grow older. It's just those things, and it seemed so cool. And it kind of made you want to, well, okay, let me take notes of the kind of player I want to be in some
yeah,
sort. But like you said, it was also the fights, it was the drive-bys,
yeah,
it was parties at our house when our grandparents are gone,
yeah,
seeing people OD
yeah,
in our house,
yeah,
and we didn't know any different. All the weddings, we came from a very big family. All the weddings, there was always drunks and
yeah,
fights,
yeah.
and it was just normal to us.
That was
It
yeah,
was. It was. If there wasn't a fight, it was not normal.
yeah. Like, what's going on here? What's happening?
So
It's funny that I never knew that, Charlene, that you looked at my uncles the way I looked at them.
hmm
Just to right, I never knew that. We never talked about that because they were my they were my uncles, but they were like my brothers too.
hmm
We were close, and they were 5, 6 years apart, and they were again. They would come home, talk about who they had slept with, these multiple girls that they're playing. Um, Never talking about respect and honoring and cherishing one woman.
hmm hmm
And I didn't know that you picked up on that too, and that's was part of your example. That's really, I mean, opens my mind to wow. As a female,
Yeah.
you picked up on that too. As a male, that it's more of a natural. okay, well, this is what a man does and how he operates. But I didn't know that you picked up on that too and said, hey, because that at the core, at the fundamental level, gave us permission
Oh, absolutely.
to cheat, to be devious, to be sneaky, and to really do what we wanted to do and be selfish. I didn't know that about. Wow, that's something.
Yeah.
You know?
And then as well, I mean, let's talk about our parents, right? Our parents weren't present,
Yeah.
for a long time. My dad was in and out of jail his whole
Right.
life.
Yeah.
Although he was, when he was out, he was present. And my mom was faithful until she had enough. And then
Yeah.
she turned to the streets,
Yeah. I
So,
remember that.
yeah. And thank God for our grandparents
Yeah.
that were there.
Absolutely.
So I always want to give them credit, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have had a home.
Yeah.
We were very loving. There was a lot of us,
Yeah.
but we did see some dysfunctional stuff. And now that we know it's dysfunctional, we didn't know then.
No.
Um,
Yeah. And that showed up in my relationship early because Joanne, my wife, she's from Covina.
uh-huh.
Similar background. Parents were divorced, got separated, but the things that I saw were much more intense than what she saw. And when I would take that over to when I would like go to her neighborhood, go to her house, or people are fighting, or oh, let's go see, let's go. Oh, you got him like that, got him. And she's like in the back of the room, like, oh no, call the cops, call the cops. What do you mean? This is what are you talking about?
This
Let's go.
entertainment.
Yeah, they'll be fine. Knock them out. Get up there. Because we've seen some stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen your dad bleeding.
Yeah.
People shot at right in front of our porch at 2 in the
Yeah.
morning. Just some horrific things that when I moved outside of that area and went to start dating Joanne, she was like, "Oh, that is.
Yeah.
How did you survive that? I don't know.
Uh-huh.
I just survived it.
Yeah.
There's some good memories here too. Name one good memory that you have, and mine is when I come here, lemon saladito. I haven't had that in a long time. But that was our like go-to lemon saladito. Go to the store, 25 cents for some. If you've grown up in East LA or some hood, you know about that, right?
Well, East LA is home.
Yeah.
No doubt. It's home. Our family's still in the same houses.
Yep.
So I won't take that away from East LA. But my greatest memories is being with my cousins. Growing up, and remember we used to go to summertime. We'd all go to the Obregon Park to go swimming with Josie and Tommy, and so we had some really good times as well. It's like, well, it was fun. We had a fun time, as being kids.
It was fun.
Yeah, we didn't know any better.
Yeah, that was. I mean, we had a roof over our head. We had food on the table.
Yeah. One thing you said though about how when you got with Joanne, because she was different, right?
Yeah.
See, with me, I got with people from the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, two dysfunctional people didn't
Right.
know any better. We continued that generation for many years, and because we came from the same place, we came from the same moms that were on welfare,
Mhm.
and they didn't work, and dads were abusive or dads
Yeah.
were in gangs, and growing up in that. So it took me many more years to realize it was dysfunctional. It took me 2 marriages and to realize that something was wrong.
Something was wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. And the only reason why I didn't follow that pattern is because I moved out of the grandparents' house when I was 14 in high school. Moved to my dad's house in Rosemead, which is a whole other podcast. Talk about later, another subject. But that was the only reason why. And I think about that often. I go, if I would have stood there, I would have probably married a homegirl or someone who in that neighborhood, which I like Mexican women, and that was around me, and that was my role model. But I would have probably ended up with someone.
Well, absolutely, because I remember Grandma and Grandpa being after you about being at the party with a cigarette. I think we snitched on you for having a cigarette in your ear. So
Man, they caught me every time.
So you were going the wrong way.
I was, and I think about that too. I think about that where I am today, and all my friends, pretty much, I think one or two. I mean, I don't know if Rockhead's still around or Chino is the only one that's. They're all dead or in prison.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And those are the guys that I would get up in the morning, walk to school with, walk back to school. Kennedy to Belvedere Junior High School, and they were just
Yeah.
they're all in jail and or dead.
Yeah.
So I think about that too. Like, man, God has been really moving or preparing me for this place in my life. What I want to do, what I am doing now,
Mm-hmm.
for people who are in pain
Mm-hmm.
and caught in those cycles.
And I do want to say that that was instilled in us. We were raised in a very religious family. Our grandparents were very religious, and it was like they always say, that seed was planted in us since we were kids. And for me, I never forgot about it. Right? I knew the Bible. I knew God. Um, I just didn't have a relationship. I didn't have a personal relationship. I didn't understand. Um, you know, we were raised as Jehovah's Witnesses,
Yeah.
and it was very strict, and I just didn't understand it at that time. But fast forward to now, obviously this is our testimony, and where now we have a relationship with God, and we understand what it means to love, to when you really know His love
Mm-hmm.
for us, and it gives you how to love yourself as well.
Right.
Then but back to that is it was instilled in us when we were
Right.
kids. Is the point.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. And I quote scripture, and I remember my grandfather with his sayings and bad associations supposed
Oh,
useful habits.
that was
And
grandma's number one.
yeah, bad associations useful habits.
I didn't
You
understand
know,
it then.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I wanted to understand it then.
Yeah.
It's like bad association.
My friends are good. What do you mean? We're only
So
stealing.
what for in the gang?
Yeah,
I'll
we're
steal
only ditching seventh grade and going and stealing from Whittier Boulevard. I mean, but
bad
yeah.
association.
You don't know my friends.
But yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think of some other things I used to say.
Grandma used to tell us, me and Chantal, is they're not gonna buy the milk if
Oh,
the cows
my
were
goodness.
free, and
Oh yeah,
but it comes back to
yeah,
yes, you
yeah,
gotta wait till you're married
yeah.
to have those relationships, and so I know that wasn't biblical, but that
Yeah.
was one of those things we
No,
heard
yeah.
often, man.
Grandma was grandfather was the cornerstone of
Mm.
biblical, and he lived it. And grandma was lit off the hinges. She would,
She'd go into houses, drag
she'd
you
get
out,
her street style in.
Uh-huh.
Someone
Yeah.
call you cabron once in a while, and then why buy the cow if the milk's for free? Why buy it? I go, wow,
You
that's
whores.
true. Yo, wow, that's
Like, Grandma, you're speaking from experience
yeah,
there.
grandma's lit off the hinges. She's a little wild. She's a little wild.
Yeah.
But so let's talk about your past relationships and how that role model, what you saw growing up, and all the things we talked about, how that affected your let's say your first marriage.
Yeah. So I met my first husband when I was 14, and we got into a relationship when we were 16. And when we were 16, he started hitting me, abusing me really bad, black and blue, just tortured me. And I thought it was normal. I thought he loves me. He's hitting me. He must love me so much. And it's twisted. But if you remember, one of our uncles used to beat up his wife. And I grew up, they're my favorite. I hung out with my cousins. I didn't know. My mom and dad used to, he didn't hit her often, but, there was abuse. And I thought, this man loves me, he wouldn't do this if he didn't. 16, what did I know? Got pregnant at 17, got married at 18. I only got married because he wasn't allowed in the house if I didn't get married, because of our religious beliefs. So marriage was forced on us, is what I felt.
Yeah.
Not the religion, because I don't like to talk about any religion.
Yeah.
It was just the way. It's my testimony. So it was pushed. That we had to be married to bring anybody around.
Yeah.
And so I got married, and that only lasted 4 months. 4 years. I'm sorry, 4 years.
Okay.
The abuse stopped while into it, because I called the cops on him and all, and he went to jail for it. And But there was cheating, multiple cheating. Um, and I remember one time I was so just in love, and I wanted to make my marriage work that I said, as long as you come home to me, because I wanted him to go out and be with that woman but come home to me.
Yeah.
I allowed it.
Yeah.
Because I loved them so much. What did I know about boundaries? What did I know about
Right.
respect?
Yeah.
What did I know about valuing myself? And I allowed it. And then, of course, when the way of the world is like when I got out of that heartbreak and stuff, I paid him back. Oh man, I went. Yeah, I went to the world and I broke his heart and I got involved with other people and payback, and that cycle continued, for a long time. And then he started getting on drugs and he flipped out, and he would wait outside with a gun, and he would drag my friends out that came with me, and he'd just do horrendous things, he would tell my family, they'd be on the 7 o'clock news, he was out to get me. So my second husband, who introduced me to him, actually protected me.
Wait, I'm gonna pause you there. Notice how I didn't flinch at all there.
Yeah.
Other people would have. He did what? What?
Yeah, and I laugh. It's not funny.
No, no, it's
true.
not.
Yeah.
We grew up
Yeah.
with my uncles whooping their girlfriend's
Mhm.
ass in front of us and seeing violence, not just in our home, but in our neighborhood.
Oh, yeah.
And we saw fights.
Mhm.
You hear the bones. I remember hearing bones hitting skin. Like, they was watching this in the park, and the homeboys were fighting. And this happened literally every day.
Yeah.
There was someone high on drugs in the corner, passing out over there. There was
Mhm.
someone. So when you tell your story, and I don't flinch, it's not because I'm not empathetic. It's just that was normal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, as an example of the generational trauma and cycles that you lived through, and that we stopped and we'll talk about that later. But go ahead with your second story.
So my second husband, I had knew him since, we all, like I said, we all grew up together. And that's the other thing is I didn't know outside of the hills. I just didn't. I didn't know that there was a world. I mean, we went on family trips and all. I just did not realize how big this world was, that there was other people out there. I was just in East LA. That's it. And so my second husband was kind of my protector, my saving grace to me, and my first husband was, everybody feared him.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted to hang out with me, because he'd go into houses and he'd drag me out, and so everybody stood away from me. And my second husband was fearless, so he had a fight with him about 3 times.
Oh, wow.
He had to, and he protected me. I'm not gonna take it away. I loved my second husband. We have a child together, and all. He taught me a lot of things, but that was one of the main reasons why I stuck with him, because he was like my protector, And so, my first husband eventually stopped bothering me, left us alone, and got married. I was 22 when I got in my second marriage, and I think about my son is now 21, my youngest, and I think, I can't even imagine. I see my nieces, 16, 21, and they're doing so well for themselves. I think 17 getting pregnant, 16, getting married at 18.
They can't even make their own dinner. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Wash your own clothes.
Exactly. And so I'm glad that generations have changed in our family. But that's the way it was. And my second husband and I, we tried our best to live, get our stuff together, get our place. And he went to school, but it was me. It was a lot of me. I had got into drugs. I messed around with drugs, but it was my drinking. It was my drinking. And I started drinking when I was 11. I took my first drink when I was 11 at a family party at Uncle Robert's house. And I think my mom gave it to me, or I don't know, my brother, I don't know. But, and I used to, my mom would teach us how to drive at a young age because she was drunk and stuff.
Yeah.
So I learned how to drive when I was 11, driving my mom around.
Because
Yeah.
she needed a drive
She
home.
needed
Yeah.
a driver, yeah. And same with
Yeah.
my brother. He was her driver as well. So
Yeah.
it was normal. The normal thing to do is to start drinking at a young age,
Yeah.
and so my drinking was the problem in my second marriage, and that was all the trauma from my first marriage, right?
Yeah.
I was innocent when I met my first husband, um, and then he killed my spirit. He just killed, who I was, and I'll take fault for that. I'm not going to blame it all on him. I was unhealthy. We were
Mm.
unhealthy together. So going to my second marriage, he took all that
Mm.
trauma, and he didn't know how to help me,
Yeah.
and it wasn't his place as well. So I tried therapy, but I didn't really apply it, and back then we were struggling. So
Yeah.
$20 copay for therapy,
Yeah.
it's like,
It's a
man,
lot of
that's
copay. Yeah.
that was expensive,
It's a 12 pack of it.
Yeah.
Stupid. 12 pack at least.
So I didn't get the help that I needed, and our marriage ended after 10 years, and there was a lot of hurt and a lot of pain, so fast forward, now I know God,
Mhm.
and I have a relationship with Him. I'm in a healthy relationship now. I've
Mhm.
been with Him for 2 years, and even with God, with therapy, and Him being a servant of the Lord, we still have issues.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
we still, and I'm still working through those trauma, uh, and because now, unfortunately, my kids had to suffer through that.
Yeah.
It's like I was a young mom, and I didn't make the right decisions, and yeah, my kids suffered for those errors that I made, and so I'm still trying to rebuild those
Yeah.
relationships.
We'll talk about that too, but I want to get to the kids. But I want to go back a little bit. And the way I would hear news from what's going on with my cousins is my grandmother would call me, sometimes, hey, did you hear what happened? What now, Grandma? What happened now? So I want to talk about an incident that I heard, and you tell me if it's true or not. Because you're describing all the other partners' faults, and you and I know, we had to help and we had to
Oh
handle
yeah,
all that stuff.
absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
So allegedly, I heard that you stabbed someone
Oh
one
yeah.
time. I don't want to know if that's true.
Allegedly,
Or,
yeah,
I
because
don't
there's
know.
no charges pressed, but yeah, I did. I became, like I said, I became uh, dysfunctional. I was
Yeah,
messed up in the head, man.
yeah,
I stabbed a couple of them,
yeah,
I'd pull the gun out of
yeah,
my second husband, and yeah, it was bad. I mean,
yeah.
I started being abusive myself to
Oh,
people, and yeah, so
okay.
yeah,
That's
no,
that's
no, no, no
all right.
denying that. I'm
All
not going
right.
to deny that at all.
All
There's
right.
actually, when I met my current boyfriend, I gave him a disclaimer.
Oh man, warnings, please. I told you that we had a text. I told you we should come with a warning, all of us.
I
Man,
did. I gave him a disclaimer. I go, so don't say I never told you. I told you.
yeah,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
And going back to our kids, your kids and my kids, I'm very proud of who they are,
Oh yeah.
who they become, who
Hmm.
they've are turning into still now, um, because we have ended some cycles. I don't think we can say all, but because like I said, they grew up with seeing certain things too
Hmm.
as we were going through our stuff. And now that we're older, we can talk to them about that, how we can counteract that and
Hmm.
see how we can influence their lives in a positive way now because they didn't grow up seeing everything that we saw. That's traumatic to some people.
Well, not your kids, but my
Yeah.
kids did. Unfortunately, they did, and I give all that credit to my son who changed generations because I had come from my siblings. There's 8 of us all
Yeah.
together, and from the oldest to probably about Siobhan already.
Mhm.
Um, we were all married. We were all our gatherings were just us, right? And going trick or treating, Danny would have a 12 pack under the stroller.
Yeah.
It was to that extent where every event was drinking. Chuck
Mhm.
E. Cheese, we take in
Yeah.
gift bag with with beer.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's like there is never an event just for the kids. It was
Yeah.
all about drinking. And then it hit me the other day when we were at my sister's, and I don't know what we were doing. What I think it was like Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
There was no alcohol. I was like, man,
Yeah.
I remember. You know, it was
Wow.
who's pitchins. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
who's gonna
Pitching.
go to the store?
I know you got paid.
Yeah.
Get over here. Pitch. You got paid on Friday.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you know, Uncle David only bring you a
Yeah.
six pack. It's like, you know, you're frowned
Stupid
upon if you only brought
six-pack.
a six pack. You know?
Man, go to the store. I'm out of my wallet. Oh, no. Man, again.
But that's what it was all about. It was all about getting drunk for us. You know, it wasn't about our kids. And there's a lot of fights, you know, in with our kids. And so not until my son, you know, he actually stopped that, and he wanted to show for his cousins and his sibling.
Hmm.
And so that's honestly where I could say that the generation started changing. He started implementing that. And like I said, unfortunately,
Yeah.
I can't take that credit.
Yeah.
My sisters, my brother can't. You know,
Yeah.
it's like yeah,
I remember one time we got really creative with it, sneaking alcohol in. We would go to weddings, receptions, and put all the coats on an ice chest, and cover it up, and then walk in, have someone hey, go walk behind me so they don't see, and put it under the table. Let's just our
oh
coats are there,
yeah,
just our coats, and
yeah.
there'd be a full bar under the table. Here you go, here you go. Here's an in on the beer. And when I saw ice at the wedding reception, I was like, okay, this is pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like I said, there is no event without the alcohol.
yeah,
That's the way we were raised. And now, just recently, I want to say the past few years, have I tried to stop, you know,
mhm,
because I barely realized it's a
yeah,
problem. I knew it was a problem for a while.
yeah,
Obviously, not to the point where I needed rehab or anything, but to the point where, because it wasn't out there like I'm fiending for it,
right.
but I didn't know how to stop
It
or
was
when
still
to
part
stop.
of your
Yeah, you know.
I think mindset.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So just when you're drinking, it's a good feeling,
yeah, yeah,
and like I said, I'm not in any program. It's just I
yeah,
didn't like who I became when I went overboard, you know, or I knew that I could not stop at a certain point because I liked the feeling, right?
yeah,
And so for my happiness and my conscience now in the Lord,
yeah.
I've learned to abstain from it.
Also with me, with the struggles with alcohol, those are mainly my struggles. Yeah, I dabbled in experimenting in drugs and when I was younger, but it was mostly alcohol for us.
Hmm.
We didn't really None of us turned out to be heroin
Hmm.
addicts, or crackheads or anything like that. But alcohol was a staple
Yeah.
of everything. And then I remember Joanne used to tell me or ask me, why can't you just stop at two
Hmm.
or three?
Hmm.
Or when you feel that buzz, why can't you just stop in there?
Well, I see some people drink water after, and I'm like, why would you mess that up? All that you paid for the beer, and then you're gonna want to get sober? Like it costs that much to get drunk, you know? And but yeah, that's our
Yeah,
mentality from the ghetto, or from, I don't know
yeah.
where it's from,
No,
but
that's
yeah,
that's that role model because
yeah.
no one stopped. I mean,
Mm.
what happened is that you blacked out and you fell asleep on the bed, and then you got up at 1 in the morning and hey, come on, all right, let's keep it going. And someone
Yeah.
went to the store, did a beer run,
Mm.
and you kept going. There was no this is I'm gonna have two and that's it, and I'm gonna feel good. And
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
there was just you kept going, and that's again with in my house today through my journey of understanding having a personal relationship with Jesus Christ.
Hmm.
I still drink, but I don't crave it as much as I used to.
Hmm.
I don't look for it
Hmm.
when I'm stressed or when I'm going through a hard time or something's at work or something went wrong. It's amazing. I just don't have that. I guess the Lord took that away from me. Where that
Hmm.
peace, like, gives me peace through His Word and through the belief that I have in Him that He's gonna make it okay,
Hmm.
and not having a substance outside that, because that just leads to that leads to
Oh yeah, absolutely.
temptation,
Hmm.
to your mind thinking in a certain way. And when I'm clean and sober, um, everything's better.
Yeah.
Everything is better.
Well, this is where it comes back to, uh, you know, bad associates, useful habits, you know,
Yeah,
and I did realize if I stay away from, because I'm sometimes not strong enough.
Hmm.
So I know my weaknesses, right? So now I won't hang around with people that I know like to party,
Yeah.
right? And no, I'm not, because I love my friends, and
Yeah.
we still have childhood friends, but that's because I can't control
Yeah.
myself. So I'll just abstain from certain occasions and all. And because there's I stay away from the parties, I stay away from the clubs, I stay away from, because I don't like who I become. So
Yeah.
I'm not blaming that on anybody else. I take
Yeah.
full responsibility for that.
And people don't call me no more to go out. They don't. They won't call me. They won't. I don't get like an invite. Hey, who's you had a party with?
uh,
Where's my invitation? Oh, we don't see you're in the Diaz
yeah,
now.
yeah,
Like,
that's true.
I'm not dead. I mean, I like to have a good time. Or, I'll drink a couple. I'll drink a couple, maybe
Yeah.
one, and then but I don't get calls no more.
Uh-huh.
They don't call me up, and it's
I'm
just
okay with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like the social aspect of it, but I guess they remember the old Aaron who used to be the life of the party and
Yeah.
be out there and being crazy and stuff. But and not that I have a lot of time to go
Mhm.
anyways. I'm in school and I'm married. I have 4 kids, and so that takes up most of my time. But I get an invitation once in a while.
Yeah.
So hey, I don't drink as much as I do anymore, but I'm still fun. I can still have some fun.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's and like I said, I'm okay with it too. I'm
Yeah.
okay with it.
Yeah.
Now we have a few minutes left. I want to talk about let's list 5 things, and we'll come up with a list together. 5 things that you would have told yourself back then that you learned that you know now, looking back. 5 things that would have hey, young Charlene, you need to do this, or this is why you're doing this, or maybe if you did this, it would have a better outcome. Um, let me start. I'll start with the one. I would say that don't be afraid to be different
Mhm.
than your family because I think that's a big part of you wanting to fit in and be not be an outcast. Because when someone didn't drink or some, what's
Oh,
wrong with you?
still, even till
Yeah,
today, if I go out with certain people, it's like, you're not drinking. Like,
yeah,
yeah, it's okay.
yeah,
It's just you still you still get that,
yeah,
when you go, not only with family but with different people.
yeah. I mean, I wish if I could tell the younger Aaron, hey, it's okay not to drink or not to partake and have your own ideas and your own goals. And I would have told him that.
Hmm. For me, the number one, of course, is God. To have a relationship with God, right? But because that has changed me greatly, and but uh, aside from that, it's I would have waited. I would have, where we come from, like I said, it was normalized to be in relationships
Mm-hmm.
and get pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
At a between 15 and 18 is the
Yeah,
average
yeah.
for Latinas, Hispanics
Mm-hmm.
in California.
Yeah.
It's 51% of them from 15 to 19.
Wow.
And I would have waited. I would have, if I could go back, I would wait to live my life.
Yeah.
Live my life, not be such in a rush to be in a relationship. But there's daddy issues. Like how I say,
Right.
and so that was the substitution for it. But I
Yeah.
wish I would have waited to live my life, to explore the world, and I think that would have prevented a lot of chaos that happened in my life. Yeah, because after I got married, those are the things. That my second marriage, I didn't know about life.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, it's like, well, I wanna experience what's out there now.
Yeah.
And that wasn't fair to my kids because I chose to be a mother.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't their fault that I wanted to now go and see what the clubs were about, or
Mm-hmm.
to see what it was to meet people and all. So I would have waited.
That ties right into another point that I want to make. And you said earlier that the reason why you got married, one of the reasons why, because you couldn't bring him to the house because you weren't married, and they'll consider living it right, being sinning or living in sin.
Hmm.
How twisted is that? Because we should be looking at the values, the characteristics of the person, inviting them over and saying, hey, exploring what they're about. Do you believe in what's your view on finances? What's your view on relationship? What's your view on child rearing? What's your view on? But that doesn't that's not a gate that they have to jump over, or a hoop. It's not. It's just, well, you have to look right for the family, because if you come over here and we let you in,
But
you
but
know,
then at 16, what did we know? You know, what did any of us have? I mean, again, this is only me.
yeah,
But what do we know about finances? I didn't know
yeah,
about investing until my son started talking
yeah,
to me a few years ago. It's like, what did we know?
yeah,
We were taught, I was taught, Armageddon was going to come in a couple years.
yeah,
Education
right,
was frowned upon, you know, because we didn't think, and I really believed that we weren't going to make it until that time, you know. So, what do we care about all those
yeah,
things? We didn't. We did. I did. I didn't. You know.
yeah.
So.
That's a good point you brought up. The a point about being in the Jehovah's Witnesses religion. It was preached to us that, again, why do anything? Why go get an education? Why get a good job? Why buy a house? Why? Because the system is going to end in a few years. And if you're a part of or Jehovah's Witness, I'm sure you can relate to this, um, because that was so mindset. I'm big on mindset. So that's the mindset that we had.
Mhm.
And you didn't pursue higher education. You didn't pursue, investing. You didn't pursue, trying to educate yourself on how to raise children
Mhm.
properly. Or all that mattered was you were good standing with God, and the time was going to end. And as long as you were in good standing and your ducks in a row, that's all that mattered. You know.
No, but before we go on, I do want to say because I still I learned a lot of things from JWs, and I'm not uh, putting them down whatsoever. I am a non-denomination Christian now, and they are Christians as well.
Right.
A lot of my beliefs came from that. A lot of my structure of who I am came
Mm-hmm.
from that. So I don't want to. I'm not putting down religion
Yeah.
here. Our family is still
Mm-hmm.
heavily into it, and my grandfather was a faithful servant of the
Yeah.
Lord. So, but yeah, that's the way we were raised, and
Yeah.
it was just strict. So now moving forward, like my son and his girlfriend live together.
Yeah.
They've been living together for about 2 years. I do not force marriage on them.
Mm-hmm.
I am a Christian. I do know Bible principles. My boyfriend and I are not having sex until we get married.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's something because I have a relationship with God. But I want my children to have a relationship with
Mm-hmm.
God, so then they have that conscience and they make that decision to get married. Although I know Bible principles, right?
Yeah.
I do not want to force them into a marriage that I made. Who knows if it's going to last? I don't. I want them to figure that out, right? So I don't push that on them,
Yeah.
which is hard. Which is
Yeah.
hard.
I'm gonna. I have so much to say about that, because, and I don't want to sound holier than thou, or like
Mm-hmm.
I'm the perfect example, but there has to be a shift. There has to be a change in the culture, and I'm not saying I'm going to be the one to do it or to be the one to
Mm-hmm.
change the world, but so many problems I see now that I've been through my problems and
Mm-hmm.
my um, tribulation. If I only did it this way,
Yeah.
it would have been so much better. And if I only had a role model that would show me, hey, that took me in, Aaron, look at this is, don't do this because this is going to happen. This,
Mm-hmm.
I feel I didn't have that. And what I want to be now, what I think I've been called to do, is not tell you you're wrong and living in sin, not
Mm-hmm.
pointing the finger at you, but to be simply a role model
Yeah.
for marriages, for the covenant marriage that God has designed to be in alignment with His Word and His kingdom. That's what I've. And so when you tell me that your son and uh, his girlfriend aren't married, it doesn't sit well with me, because Jordan, my son, and his girlfriend are not married. I'm like,
Yeah.
and then they have a cousin who's living with his girlfriend and not married. So is it a generational thing that they don't not getting married, or are they
Yeah.
afraid of it, or they don't know about it? So my view is they don't know how the covenant works and
Mm.
the benefits of it.
Mm-hmm.
The benefits of it are great, and
Yeah.
they can't see it. So I talked to Jordan often about this
Mm-hmm.
and asked him, son, what are you doing? What's your
Mm-hmm.
plan? I do apply a little pressure. I do, because
Mm-hmm.
again, after what I've been through, I know the
Yeah.
benefits of being in a covenant marriage. Because in the past I had a horrible marriage, but now that I have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, I'm in alignment with His Word. The whole the joy and the peace that I feel is like I never had before, ever,
Mm-hmm.
in my
Yeah.
marriage or anywhere else. So I do force my opinions on him.
Not to the point where Jordan, you're not welcome with your girlfriend here
No, not
if
to that
you
point
are
at all.
married. You know,
No,
so that's where it's.
no,
I think
no. That's
there's
the difference.
yes,
Yeah,
yes. So.
that's the difference there.
And
And
like you said, we preach to them, right? I mean,
right,
I share the verses of the day. I invite them to church. I try to lead by example. And they live on their own now, right? They're not living under my home, my roof, and so I can't force them. But like I said, I want to do it in a different way than what it was with us,
yeah,
you know. So
absolutely.
yeah,
Different way, different approach.
exactly.
I still am going to stand by my principles because if I'm going to go to church and be in His Word and be about
Yes,
being a Christian,
absolutely.
then I'm gonna preach to you again, not in a way where I'm sit down and you're gonna take this and
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna listen and you're living in sin. Not that approach doesn't work, but with love. What I
Mm-hmm.
learned how Jesus loves me with love
Yeah.
and welcoming them and bringing them in because God's working over there.
Mm-hmm.
Not according to my time though.
Yeah, that's
I want him
right.
to work right now. I want him to get
Mm-hmm.
married now.
Mm-hmm.
But He is working on the other side.
Yeah.
You gotta believe that.
Mm-hmm.
He is working there, and he's using you, me, to just plant seeds.
Exactly.
Plant seeds in His Word. Plant seeds. Make them think about things, and most importantly, they're watching me and Joanne
Exactly. Exactly.
and how our marriage functions now
Mm-hmm.
because they've seen how horrible it was in the past.
See, and that's the thing is it's so easy to remember those things, those bad things, and how I can't recall how many years now that you guys have been really working on it, and about 3 4 years now. So you
Yeah,
think about all that they've seen prior to that,
yeah,
and I believe that that's the reason why my youngest, because my oldest is married, but my youngest is not, and because they've seen years of it, and even now, my boyfriend and I, we still have our issues. That's why we're not married yet,
right.
because we were off and on, and God is doing a work in both of us. We're progressing in the
Mhm.
Lord, but we're not there yet where we're both, because we both came with trauma into this relationship, and
Yeah,
we're both trying to heal from that. And God is working on both of us individually. So again, it's what, like you said, what they see, and it's not happy marriage is what they're seeing.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot right here, real quick. Do you want to get married? Ooh, watch out. Wow. Let me. Ooh.
I do, but I want to make sure that I'm ready,
Okay.
because I'm scared. I'm
Yeah.
scared
Of course.
to think of. I've been independent for so long. I've carried the weight for so long, and I have to learn how to be uh, submissive to my mate. My husband.
Understood.
And
Yeah.
I'm so used to, like, I can't deal with this. Let me
Yeah.
go home now, or I don't
Yeah.
need this, or I don't need your attitude, and
Yeah.
I'm just trying to help. So yeah, like, and
Yeah.
going home.
Still working through
Yeah,
those things.
I,
Yeah.
I enjoy my alone time, and so I do want to get married. I do,
You do.
just
Okay.
not right now.
All right. All right. We'll talk about that on the next podcast because that's a whole other, I think, conversation we can have because you recently been through some stuff and we can say that for later. But that's I think that's a common theme, and we'll wrap it up right now. There's a common theme in people over 40 who've been through this divorce or been out of a relationship and now coming back into the dating world and coming to, or they have someone who they're involved with. But again, they've been independent for so long. They have their habits. They have their this and that, and that's another podcast, and we'll talk about that later. But I want to say one more thing. I want to thank you for being on this podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We talked about it for a long time, and we talk on the phone all the time, so this is natural for us to do.
He's my free therapist.
Exactly, free therapy over here.
I am in therapy as well, though.
Family discount. Bring me a talk. No, kidding. But yeah, I want to thank you for that, and I want to thank you for being part of the bigger picture. What I'm trying to do again, trying to be a role model for healthy marriages, is the ultimate goal. Living by His word and being an example of God's love in me and how I can share that with other people. bringing people who are far from Him, who are in pain, who are hopeless, hopefully bringing them closer to the Lord.
Absolutely. All honor and glory to God. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because if He could do it to us, He could do it to anybody. I believe that. Yeah.
100%.
Because that's we just touched the surface.
Oh,
We didn't
yeah.
even, because there's other, obviously
Oh,
we've
man.
both been through depression
Yeah,
and attempted suicide.
definitely.
And
Yeah.
so there's a lot, but with God, you
Yeah.
can get through,
My marriage was dead. He resurrected it.
Yeah.
Amazing story. But again, thank you, Shirley, for being on this journey with me. I value your opinion. I value you. I mean, I appreciate all your help that you've given me. Love, out of love. Thank you for that. And yeah, I appreciate your time. See you in the next one.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.